Alright, what's up guys? Today we're going to be changing the spark plugs on a 2006 Saturn Vue. And before we get started, just to let you know, this is a 6-cylinder engine, so there are 6 spark plugs. So before I get started, today's Memorial Day, so I got on my Freedom shorts today, and I'm going to go ahead and change out the spark plugs in my car just because I'm off of work, so I figured it'd be a good time to go ahead and get that going. I'll go ahead and give you guys a list of all the parts and everything down in the description that are used, and I'll show you which tools and everything you're going to need to go ahead and do the job. But it's pretty straightforward. You don't need a whole lot, and all of it can be accessed right from the top of the vehicle, so you don't have to worry about jacking it up. Okay guys, here are the tools that are going to be needed for this job today. These are the spark plugs that I used. I also used some of this anti-seize thread magic, and used some of this dielectric boot protector. Always nice to have just a flathead screwdriver. Absolutely essential would be this little telescopic magnet. As you'll see in the video, this is pretty much essential. You absolutely should have this for this job. And next, a small 10mm socket, 8mm socket, a T40 hex key, and just a socket for that, standard socket, a little socket extender, and a 5/8 long socket that'll be used to remove these spark plugs. And here's optional, just a smaller little socket wrench that I had that I used on the 8 and the 10mm. Made it a little bit easier in tight quarters to get through, and possibly just some those pliers if you get into some tight areas and maybe drop a screw or something like that. Nice to have. But as far as tools go, that is all you're going to need. You don't have to jack up the vehicle. Very simple. Okay, so before I get started, I just want to try my best to show you guys where these plugs are located at. So you got the first one here, second one here, third one here, and we're going to go ahead and remove the big airflow duct here. Okay, so if you just unclip this little bracket here and right here, that'll loosen up your... Using a small 10mm socket, you can remove the screw that's right here, and that'll loosen up this pipe here. And then over here, I'm going to use a little 8mm socket or a flat screwdriver to loosen this up, and we're going to continue getting this out of the way so that we can do the job. Okay, so all you have to do is loosen this outer bolt with an 8mm, and then this little piping can slide right out of there. We're going to need that out of the way so we can get to the back spark plugs. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take that same 8mm socket, and we're going to just loosen our battery terminal connector for the negative end and just slide that off. Okay, so I have a T40 socket with the little torque connector, and the first thing we're going to do is to the left side of each of these little black cylinders is an Allen key, or you can use this, like I said, this T40, and all you're going to do is just loosen that up. These aren't that tight, so they shouldn't be too difficult to loosen. Another thing you can do is just take your finger and release the little clip here for the electrical. Get that out of the way. Once you crack this little T40 loose, you can just hand loosen it. It's extremely easy to loosen. And you pull out this whole piece here, okay? And just set that aside somewhere safe for now. So I like to come in like this with my 5/8 socket, drop it down into the plug, and you'll feel it bite onto the plug, and then take your wrench and go ahead and get that in there. And mine loosened right up. I'm gonna pretty much just spin this by hand the rest of the way. Alright, so here's our old plug. It's just a Denso plug there. So I'm going to set that aside. All we're going to do here is just squeeze a little bit of this onto our finger. We don't need a whole lot, just a little bit. So this is the anti-seizing. Carefully not to do anything other than to get it onto the threads. We don't want to get it anywhere else. Okay. Take a different finger and put a little bit of that on our finger here. And we're just going to spread this around on the tip all over. Okay. So if you carefully place this into our socket, make sure we have a decent bite. We're gonna go ahead and carefully put this in. And just, there's not a lot of wiggle room, but just feel it with your hand, turn it slowly. You should not feel any resistance for a while. And as you're turning it clockwise, eventually you should start feel that it's getting tighter and tighter. So right now it's hand tight. So what we're gonna do is just flip our socket over to tighten, put it on, and just get it nice and tight with our hand. Okay. So it's just nice and tight now. Go ahead and take this boot here, and we're gonna place, this is the top, and here's where our screw goes on the left side. We're gonna slide this directly back in, just the way it came out. All right, so we're just going to repeat that process for the other two here in the front. That was the center one that I just did. I did not tighten it back down all the way yet. I will get to that shortly, but just going to pull up a time lapse of me changing the other two. Alright guys, so this is going to be a lot harder to see, but the same process applies to the back. You've got one way down here, one right here, and one right here. 3 in a row. They all detach the exact same way. Again, you're not really going to be able to see this one on film, but if you just apply the exact same method as this one, and this one in the front, you're going to do the same thing in the back, okay? There we go, got the back one out. Now for the fun part, trying to get a socket down in there. Probably have to drop the socket down in first and then put your extension on like I did. And then lastly put your socket on. So if you guys don't have one, these little telescopic magnets are going to be a lifesaver. So you can just reach it down in there and grab your socket. Once that's out, reach down in there and grab your little. All right guys, same process here. We're just spreading the anti-seizing on the threads first. Then we're taking this dielectric, spreading it all across the tip here. Once you have that good and spread, this back side is going to be pretty much impossible to fit the socket down over it. So just drop your, go ahead and drop your spark plug down in there, then drop your socket on top of it, and then drop your little extension, get it connected, and just hand tighten it as we did in the front side. And like I said, it should be free to spin for quite a ways, and then eventually you'll feel it tighten. You shouldn't feel any kind of awkward resistance or anything like that. Okay, you just tighten it nice and snug like that. Find it useful to trying to remove this extension so it's too long to pull all the way out. So if you pull it up to the tip, take a screwdriver and push the socket off. Like that. Take your magnet, reach down in, and boom, boom, pull out your socket. We'll take our little cap here. All right, nice and tight. Don't forget to connect your little electrical connector back on. Just slide it back into place. You should feel it snap into place. And we're gonna go ahead and time lapse the other two and we're gonna be done. Alright guys, I've got all of my plugs in, 3 in the front, 3 in the back. I've made sure that all of my bolts are tightened, and make sure you snap your electrical back in. You should feel that click into place. Get all your tools out of the way. Make sure you've cleared everything that you've been placing around. And we're going to go ahead and connect our air filter. Make sure this is slid all the way back on. I'm going to slip back to the 8mm socket to tighten up the air hose clamp. Same on this side, make sure it's in there snug. 8mm, tighten it down. Good and tight. Okay, and we're going to connect our battery terminal. 8mm. Okay, it's also good and tight. Give it one last inspection. Make sure everything looks good. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and clean up my tools real quick, and we'll come back and fire it up. Alright guys, let's go ahead and see if this thing will fire right up. And there we go, fired right up. Means we hooked it all up right. Alright guys, so that's the job. Everything took me about an hour, hour and a half to do. Fairly simple job to do, really inexpensive to buy the spark plugs. I'm not a mechanic. I've said this before. If I can do it, I'm pretty sure you can do it. If there's anything you see in the video that makes you feel uncomfortable or you think you can't do it, then don't even risk it. Just take it to a shop and have a mechanic do it. And from there, I hope you like and subscribe. If this helped you, leave a comment down below. And as always, we'll see you guys in the next video.